Okay, so we're at chapter 11, Fort Bridger. But when we arrived at Fort Bridger on July 28th, Mr. Hastings wasn't there. He had gone on ahead with another party of immigrants, and the best he had done for us was to leave directions for following him. Mrs. Donner thinks we're placing a great deal of confidence in men we don't know, Patty's mother said to her father that night. But we must, Margaret, he replied. It is late in the season, and to go by the Fort Hall route would add another 300 miles to the journey. These men could have no reason for deceiving us about the road ahead. Mr. Bridger and his partner, Mr. Vasquez, the owners of the trading post, attempted to quiet any fears our people were having about taking the Hastings cutoff. Save 350 miles, maybe 400, Mr. Bridger said. No bad canyons and the trail mostly hard and level. What about Indians? Uncle George Donner asked. None that will bother you. Only diggers and Paiutes, and they're no account, Mr. Bridger said. What about grass and water? Uncle Jake Donner wanted to know. Well, there's one dry drive, 30, at the most 40 miles. But you can cut enough grass at the springs to carry the oxen over and fill your barrels with water. You'll make it. For 4 days, we halted at Bridger's Fort. The wagon tires needed resetting, and all sorts of minor repairs had to be made. Patty's father bought 2 more oxen to replace Bully and George, who had drunk from a poisoned spring back on the trail and died. And at last, Milt had his buckskin hunting suit. In fact, even Mr. Reed changed his dusty broadcloth for buckskin, and everyone purchased a pair of beaded moccasins from the Indians who had brought them to the post. One of the boys bought some Indian paint and fooled the rest into thinking he was Mr. Bridger's Indian son. Puss laughed about it as she told her mother. He paid more dearly than he expected for his fun. He found that Indian paint isn't easy to get off. He may look like an Indian for the rest of the trip. On the last day of July, we left Fort Bridger and followed the wheel marks where Mr. Hastings and his party had turned onto the new route.